Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Shea Dixon. Shea, we have some breaking news here on the quarterback front at LSU. Why don't you give us the rundown of everything that's going on?
Yeah, the big news of the day, the week, the month, I guess, so far. Walker Howard, after 1 year at LSU, one season at LSU, is planning to enter the transfer portal. We've confirmed with multiple sources. His name should show up in the portal. It usually takes 24 to 48 hours. His name will appear in the portal. And I guess we'll go ahead and hit off the top. The buzz is that he's entering the portal and will look at TCU as a top option. His closest friend, who he played high school ball with and came to LSU with, Jack Besh, a receiver, already entered the portal and committed to TCU. So signs pointing there early on. Duggan, obviously, in his final year, it would be Chandler Morris. And if a guy like Walker Howard goes to TCU, they would have those two on roster as top guys. But this is an LSU podcast. Maddie B, I am not surprised at this. I am just surprised at the timing of it because I thought this was a conversation we would be having a year from now, whether it was about Walker Howard, whether it was about Garrett Nussmeier. But when Jaden Daniels announced that he was coming back for a fifth year of college football, he'll be on roster next season. Brian Kelly already said Jaden was our starter, obviously, all season. He enters the offseason as the starter, but Garrett would be given an opportunity to compete to beat him out. And we already saw Garrett play a good bit in the bowl game, which they said was by design in the third series. Nussmeier was in and played very well. And he also played well in the SEC championship. Then there was Howard. He played in two games. I think he only attempted four passes, all in the Citrus Bowl when he got to get in the fourth quarter. The other game he got in was Southern, and I believe he just handed the ball off in the fourth quarter the whole time. So gets in the two biggest blowouts of the year. That's not the surprising part, like the lack of playing time this year. I think he's looking forward, and you give me your opinion here. I haven't talked to Walker Howard. I haven't talked to his dad, Jamie Howard. This news broke an hour ago. We confirmed it with other sources that it was true that he was planning to enter the portal. But I don't think that we have to talk to them to understand why a quarterback in this position, in this day and age, would enter the portal. And my line of thought would be if you're Walker Howard, you've just sat 1 year, you took a red shirt. That is expected. Everybody thought you would. Well, now it's not you versus Nussmeier next year. It's Nussmeier versus Jaden Daniels. And with how much we've already seen Nussmeier and that he's looked good and he's only going to continue to get better, you'd have to think that Walker Howard, QB3 in this scenario, would look and say, well, QB1 is in his final year of college. QB2 is older than I am, already gets to play a lot, and is playing really well. It would seem that there's already an heir apparent for me in place, that they were planning to go from, and are planning, Maddie B, to go from Jaden Daniels to Garrett Nussmeier, whether that was happening this year or next year. Now it's just one more year delayed. So I figured we'd have this conversation next year. I thought that either Daniels would be gone and then Nussmeier would win the job and Howard would leave. I didn't think it would be this early, but a move like this, Matty B, tells me the writing seems to be on the wall, that the staff, judging by their actions, and a guy like Walker Howard gets to see a whole lot more than just game day, that it was Daniels and then it was Nussmeier.
Yeah, I think you laid it out well with the situation because when Daniels announced his return, my immediate thought, and I think a lot of people's immediate thought was Garrett Nussmeier to the transfer portal. I thought Garrett Nussmeier can start a lot of schools. He'll go start somewhere else, and then you have the Jaden Daniels one more year. Then you have Walker Howard's succession to Ricky Collins, Colin Hurley, and so on and so forth. That was believed by me to be the succession plan. Garrett Nussmeier not entering the portal for the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks has obviously shown that he does intend to at least go through the spring and see if he can compete with Jaden Daniels for the starting job, and then potentially go into the fall looking to earn the starting job. Like that is what I think has become increasingly clear as days continue to pass, and Garrett Nussmeier continues to stay here and try to win out the job. Will he do it? I don't know. I think, Daniels obviously is probably in the driver's seat, but Nussmeier has all the talent in the world in order to do that. With that being the case, like you said, if Nussmeier is still there and Nussmeier does not intend to leave, I think Walker Howard leaving makes sense. And so with Walker Howard moving on, especially to a place like TCU, like you said, we don't have to talk about TCU a lot, but TCU, a place that loses Max Duggan and only has Chandler Morris there. I mean, I think that is a situation where he can step in and compete for a job right away, if not start right away. Do I think he's ready to start or not is a separate discussion. I think when we watched them in the spring and the fall, and we watched the quarterbacks as they went through year one of Brian Kelly, I thought he was significantly behind Nussmeier and Daniels, which I don't think is a hot take. I think the coaches saw that as well. But we'll see. I think all quarterbacks want to get on the field early in their career at some point. And like you said, I think the timing of it is just interesting. And now it puts LSU in an interesting spot where you have two guys that are clearly capable of starting, and then Ricky Collins as your third quarterback.
I think too, it's a math thing with quarterbacks, and in the era of the transfer portal, makes it very easy for a quarterback to say, "Hey, I want to go find more playing time, and I can do it at another big program if I just find the right time, the right move." And we're seeing that right now. Look, it's very this it was old school style for a quarterback to sit around for 3 years before he got to be the guy. Right now, you're asking Nussmeier to do that because he redshirted already 1 year, a year
Yeah.
ago. Then he plays as a backup this year. He's buying into a likelihood by staying that he'll be the backup again next year, but there's light at the end of the tunnel for him. Not only is he's in it in this competition, but he knows that once Jaden Daniels is no longer on campus, which he will no longer be on campus 1 year from now, he's the
Mm-hmm.
quarterback. They don't need to go portal hunting or anything like that. Like a Garrett Nussmeier's got another year of development, maybe more playing time under his belt. You would take in a heartbeat and would be just as good as any portal quarterback out there that you could go fight and get.
Yeah.
So to have to ask then or expect a second quarterback right behind that one guy who waited 3 years to also wait 3 years and maybe more, because that's just presuming in Walker's situation that Garrett goes pro or something as a
Yeah. Nussmeier will have
redshirt
2
year.
years. Yeah. He'll have 2 years once Jaden's done because he redshirted that first year.
So there would be a situation where if Nussmeier not only won the job, but then stayed more than 1 year as the starter, that Walker would what, be waiting till his senior year of college to play? Like
Fourth year.
that's if you just rip away everything, forget where they're from, forget who their dads are, any of that,
Yeah.
the math just doesn't work out that way. You're not in the modern era going to be fortunate enough to have talented quarterbacks wait that long.
Yeah, and so two things. I think that's why whenever Daniels announced his return, it's like one of these quarterbacks will transfer. I assumed it to be Nussmeier. Nussmeier buys in, it's Walker Howard. Um, Now the interesting point to me is that if you offered, this scenario up to LSU fans that you have Daniels and Nussmeier for another year for 2023, and then Daniels leaves and you have 1 or 2 years of Nussmeier moving forward, and that's your timeline for quarterbacks for the next 3 years, I think all of them would take that. Like I just that sounds like best case scenario. Now the problem is obviously is if something does go awry at some point or any point, then you don't have that Walker Howard cushion to fall back on. But like you said, this is 2023 college football. There are very, very little quarterback threes that are as talented, I think, as Walker Howard, even though I think he has limitations to his game. Like you're not going to see a quarterback three that's not a freshman that is this highly rated and this highly ranked.
Yeah. Well, and to your point of the scenario there would not, I don't know how many would have chosen the counter to that. Even, and I'm not going to get into the Jaden Daniels naysayers after they
Yeah.
just won double digit games and won the West and he puts up all these stats and another year of improvement. Look, they're in a great spot with Daniels and Nuss. The other end of that argument, Matty B, would be, would you rather Daniels go pro? And then you have Nuss and Howard. Well, great. You've got your two young guys. What happens next year when you have SEC championship aspirations, when you have playoff aspirations, if Nussmeier gets hurt? You're going through all that with Walker Howard, a guy who's never played at all, really? I
Yeah.
mean, so I think then that, and I'll wrap kind of things up in this little kind of mini breaking podcast. That's where coaches are at. And that's where decision makers at, Brian Kelly is at this day and age with the portal, with college rosters turning over all the time, with you taking double digit guys off the rosters of other teams to bring in every year, coaches, especially at quarterback, because it's the easiest thing to point to and understand playing time because there is only one of them that gets
Mhm.
to actually play. You value LSU would rather, in my opinion, again, we don't have to name them Jaden Daniels, Nussmeier, Howard. You could just put out their accolades 1 to 3. You're going to take the two guys that you've seen that have played, that are older, that are experienced, because the now and the present future in the era of the portal and the era of expansion and all this and where we're at with just college football, you value that much more over the future. The present, future, and now is what matters. You can't bank on, hey, let's just hope, let's hinge it all on keeping a guy around for 4 years that doesn't play right now.
Yeah, and it's as we know, quarterback science is difficult for anybody. I mean, you look at top 10 rankings of the past 10 years, it's hit or miss. And Walker is definitely talented, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes at LSU if he's able to beat out Chandler Morris. If he does go to TCU, I'm not obviously it's not done yet, but if he does go there with Jack Besh, that would be interesting. But yeah, I think you laid it out well. In this day and age, you can't really expect Howard to stay. And I think LSU is actually, considering all the situations, like you said, all laying out all the situations here, you tell us LSU fans, hey, you get Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier for another year. I mean, I can't. You can't ask for anything more than that, in my opinion. Especially with this team that is going to be a team ranked in the top 10 and a team with aspirations of making another SEC championship game. Like that's where this team is at. I think they're in a really good spot.
Yep, nope. I think that sums it up well. But look, best of luck to Walker Howard. Again, I think this just comes down to the reality of how quarterback dominoes work. And as you said, when you're going into next year top 10 and you knew you were gonna there was a chance you were losing one or the other of your two backups, the
Mm-hmm.
less experienced one, the one who's been on campus less time, is the one that stings less. Nussmeier leaving would have been, for me, a lot bigger hit because you really are then one injury away from a
Yeah.
Walker Howard playing who's not got any real playing time under his belt. So that's my thoughts. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by the decision at all. I'm surprised at the timing. I thought that this would have been a post spring debate
Yes.
we had maybe about Nussmeier if like he just weren't getting reps or something, or it'd be a this time next year we're talking about one of the backups leaving.
Yeah. I was thinking post spring as well. I think that's a good timeline. And how many? Because there's only one more week of the transfer portal being open, or 2 more weeks, or something like that.
Yes, it closes. I think the 19th. So yeah, 1 week
19.
about.
Okay. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's all we got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed this mini breaking news podcast. Obviously subscribe to the Bengal Tiger if you have not already, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which we are continuing to grow and continuing to put more into with every week that passes. We'll have a portal podcast sometime. Probably on Friday. Well, we plan for it on Friday. We'll see if anything new happens until then. So, for Shea Dixon, I'm Matthew Bruni. We appreciate y'all for joining us, and we'll talk to y'all later.